Okay, this is a bit out of the blue because I did not expect to make this video. I just kind of saw it, thought it was interesting, started watching it, and then I noticed that I was pausing the video and yelling at the screen. Now, I'm gonna try not to yell for this video, but it's this one right here with Ian Hazukosis talking about World of Warcraft over the past 20 years, things that they saw that were wrong, things that they're trying to fix. At least that's what I'm getting from how far I've gotten now. I'm about 10, almost 11 minutes into the video. We don't need to watch the first part of it because it's him going over, oh, what I used to do for the company, and then just giving the groundwork of what World of Warcraft is to the people watching. Now is when he's actually starting to talk about, the growing pains of having such a long-lived MMO from specifically 2010 to 2020. And this is where I started to get a bit heated, and I decided, hey, let's make a video so you guys can see my internal cringe at this.
So, just to
I
reflect
don't
on the
have
history of the
headphones, I'm
game
sorry,
over
so I
the
have to
last
lower this for
decade,
me so you can
in the
hear it.
2010s, World of Warcraft had been around for quite some time, was really reaching some of the mature stages of an online game. Had to figure out how to expand a lot of their systems, how to add new content, how to keep the game growing. And a lot of those original designs weren't necessarily holding up in that context. And this is something that the design team spent a lot of time
I've only
reflecting
seen
on
the first few
back then.
minutes, so I'm gonna let him talk
For
and pause it when
example,
I want to say
they
something.
looked at just what seemed like just a lot of bloat in our systems and our classes. With every new expansion, with every passing year, we added new abilities because that's what you get when you level up. We added new things to earn, new rewards, new systems, and this just built on top of itself.
I'm gonna say real quick now, I don't exactly blame Blizzard for the bloat because that's natural, as he was saying. You want to earn something for getting 5 more levels, 10 more levels every expansion, right? So having more abilities, I don't exactly blame it for happening. Um, but the system, the pruning that he's about to talk about is a solution that, for one, didn't feel good, and two, I don't really think that there was an they tried to make alternatives, but again, it didn't feel good. But it wasn't just class abilities. I mean, how many fucking mounts are there now? And probably 60 to 70% of them are just recolored. Not reskins, recolors. Look at Warlords of Draenor for an example. There was like 10 fucking wolf mounts. One was red, one was blue, one was green. Then there's all the boar mounts. Again, red, blue, green, yellow, gold, silver. Not those exact colors, I'm just making an example. So you're adding rewards for the sake of rewards, and in the end, it no longer feels rewarding. Oh, cool, got another wolf mount. I'm just gonna go put it over here next to the other wolf mounts I have. So there needs to be less rewards, and the few that there are have to be unique and feel that much more special. It's like, take what they should do. Let's pretend that they're now trying to fix that issue, right? What I would do is say, we are going to get rid of all of the wolf mounts that look like this model, right? That Warlords Draenor wolf model. We're going to get rid of all of those models, and you get to keep one. However, if you obtain this wolf mount, in that menu there'll be like a little color wheel or something, or like a choice option, and you can click, do you want the wolf to be white, black, brown, whatever color, right? And then maybe choose the armor, their saddle color of the wolf, right? Like, you have the armored wolf, you'll have an armored wolf, and then the normal wolf, right? You get those two wolves instead of 20 of the same wolf that are different colors. So that's how I would fix the issue even today. Reduce the amount of fucking mounts, keep the unique ones, and then have different colors. And in the event of like the big robot looking kind of ones, because I know there's a couple of different ones. There's there's like the fell covered robot, the Reaver one you can get in at the end of Warlords of Draenor, that raid, but that same exact model, just kind of reskinned, was used for a reward in Legion, where it's a light bound version. I think leaving those is okay because you have a fel one that's emitting a different power look to it rather than the light one that has a different effect, or you know what I mean? So those could be the exception. But again, if it's just a flat white wolf versus like gray wolf, to hell with it.
layer after another. And where that left us was
I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead because I
we
basically
were
just
seeing
talked about
that
that.
our community,
Here's
our
where I got heated.
players, were less social than they originally had been. You know, part of the magic of World of Warcraft in 2004 was it was this engine for meeting new people and making connections. People made lifelong friends in World of Warcraft. Some people met their partners and more. And over time, as we had added new types of content to the game, we'd made rewards much more accessible to solo players and small group players. We found that they were drifting away from that content, and the game was starting to feel much more solitary for many of them. And so something that we set out to do, reflecting on how we'd changed the game, was to re-add some exclusivity in certain types of rewards, like the best cosmetic rewards and armor sets, to ensure that if you wanted to get those, you needed to be joining an organized raid group, let's say.
So here's my problem. Players are drifting away from organized group gameplay. So your solution is to make more of the organized group gameplay. That making more of something that people don't want to do is not going to solve the issue, and in fact, it has not solved the issue. Sorry, I'm playing with the mics. I see that I'm a little bit too loud in the thing over there. Anyway, so LFG is where the social aspect really started to go down, right? LFG and LFR, because there is no what was I can't think of the word. It's punishment. There's no punishment for leaving the group. So in the ye old days, such as classic WoW, vanilla, TBC, and early days of Wrath of Lich King, where there was no looking for a group system, what would happen is, first of all, you have to spend 10 to 20 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on where you are in the leveling, where you are, whatever, to get a group, right? You spent time, however much it is, to get a group. Now you have to prepare for the group. Are you a healer or a mage caster? You gotta make sure you have water. Are you a tank? Do you have food? Are you a hunter? Do you need arrows? Are you a warlock and need just a little bit of soul stones to get you started and then you get more later on? Like, are you prepared for the dungeon? You know, stop at the nearest town or stop or in the city, grab it before you head out. Now you all head out, or a couple of you head out and you summon them at the summoning stone. Regardless, there's a journey to get there, or time waiting to be summoned. Now you all go in. Now you've sunk time. Before you've even started, you've sunk time and effort into your dungeon. So now, if, let's say, the first boss kills one or two of you. Oops, okay, whatever. And then it wipes the whole group. Well, in the LFG days, you would say, oh, I've done this before. We just, beat it and go. You guys suck. And then they leave because there's no punishment. He didn't have to wait for a group. Maybe he had to wait for a group because sometimes LFG takes fucking forever, right? But normally you just click it, and you're doing your other stuff. You're not actively looking. You're doing other stuff, and then it just says, "Oh, ready for a dungeon." Pop you right in. Right? You're right in. You don't have. There's no preparation because there's no more ammo. Healers barely even need water anymore. Water barely exists. Food. Who the fuck needs food in the modern game? So you don't need to prepare. There's no time spent actually looking for a group, and then no time at all spent getting into the dungeon. So if something happens, you say, I'll just go get another group. You leave, and then in a click of a button, you're back in with a different group. In the older days, you're less likely to do that because there's already time spent. It would have to take, like, a incredibly bad group. Like, you can see you are not going to get anywhere within 5 to 10 minutes if you keep with this group. You've been on this same area, wipe, nothing is happening, right? Then you're more likely to go find a new group. But if it just happens to be like, oh, you wiped once, maybe twice, depending on the circumstances, you're more likely to say, okay, I don't want to spend all that time going to find another group because now I gotta go back to the city, look for another group, travel back, make sure I'm prepared. So you say, hey, let's try this method instead of this method. Maybe that will work. So now you're communicating. There's your social aspect. And because people are now encouraged, not forced, but encouraged to talk to each other, now you're building the social bonding. And not only that, there's social bonding sometimes in that first phase where you're gathering the group. Maybe you need one or two more people. So you say like, hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, what's up? It's like, oh, we're going to DM. Yeah, we're going to DM. And you sometimes start talking. Sometimes you don't. Depends. You get there, and from there, you just kind of say like, oh, hey, have you done this one dungeon before? Hey, make sure you do. Like, they're more likely to talk, and sometimes it can branch out and turn into whole conversations, and that's how you develop friends. I've seen very rarely, I've seen that in LFG, LFR, none in LFR, but LFG days. LFR, fuck that. I've never heard anybody communicate, and if somebody does, it's to the annoyment of others. In raids and classic, sometimes that can happen. Sometimes you're goofing around. It depends on the seriousness of your raid group, but I'm not going to worry too much on raids. I'm talking more about dungeons in specific.
And being social, because we felt that that was always a core part of the game. We needed to keep pushing players towards it.
Another note real quick. So going back to to solve this problem of not enough social interaction, we've added more dungeons, right? Or raids. Because he says the reward exclusive to higher difficulty raids. And I was saying that wasn't solving the problem. The problem is caused because of something else. No, but your solution is not a solution at all, because now what that does is make more of something that people don't actually want to do. The entire point of running raids, I'm going to specifically talk about raids here, sometimes dungeons, but the specific reason is to beat it. Sometimes if you want specific gear, and you might run it one or two more times. Raids, because typically one whole set, especially in classic, is harder to get a full set for somebody because you have 40 other people you're competing with. It might take a little longer, but people don't like that, right? That's why it was changed later on in other expansions. But you could get a full set in less time in TBC Wrath of the Lich King. Now, sorry, I'm just acid reflux. So now, instead of just, hey, I got in, I did the dungeon, I did all my quests, I'm good, I don't have to do that dungeon ever again. Or, hey, I did the raid, I beat the raid, maybe I might want to run it one or two more times to get this piece, and then I'm done. Well, now it's, I have to do normal mode, I have to run it several times because maybe my guild is not a top-end guild, we're in the middle, right? It takes a little bit longer to push forward, so it takes us a couple of weeks to beat it. Well, now we got to do heroic mode, and because it's harder, now we're having to do the exact same level of effort. Get a couple of bosses in, now we got used to it, now the next week we try these couple of bosses, or we just keep pushing, and now you're spending multiple weeks, multiple runs on the same exact fucking raid, but a higher difficulty. And then you have mythic mode. So I've done this song and dance in several expansions before I told myself, what the fuck is the point of running High Mall or Blackrock Foundry every fucking week just because it's a different difficulty? Well, because that's the only fucking raid of that tier. And that's why I said older expansions such as, I'm going to use the example here because it's a better example, TBC, is because they have multiple raids for that level of tier, except for the later patches where it's, Sunwell is its own tier, right? But the first tier, even like that in between tier, you've got like 4 or 5 raids or whatever. So, and even in Wrath of the Lich King, where 2 of the 3 first tier raids are just one boss, it's still. Do you want to do Sart's 3D? Do you want to do not Matt Theridin, what's his name? The Eye. Oh fuck. Blue Dragon. I can't. I know his name. I'm just not coming to me right now. Blue Dragon or Star 3D, or do you want to do Naxxramas? Multiple choice. Holy hell! So, yeah, multiple choice. You do it once, twice, maybe 3 times. You get your stuff, and unless somebody's being an asshole about hogging gear, you can usually get most of your set within those few runs. It just, again, depends. And in modern WoW with personal loot, it really shouldn't be an issue. Except personal loot is its own bullshit, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
And another example. Over time,
now, I haven't seen this part
yet. A lot
yet.
of the friction that had existed in the early versions of World of Warcraft that made players make choices about their character, what they wanted to specialize in, had been eroded, had been removed. And we found that when players could change their skills very easily, could switch from one loadout to another on the fly, that ultimately they had moved from a world where they had strengths and weaknesses to one where they increasingly only had strengths and could spec out of their weaknesses, so to speak. And so we looked for ways to add some new systems into the game, like artifact weapons in Legion, where you had to pick one of several to really invest your time in.
Artifact weapons are their own issue. That can cause a whole nother rant. So when it comes to the character identity, it wasn't respecs. It wasn't dual spec that caused weakened identity. Because vanilla WoW, you can change your talents. It took gold to do it, so people were less likely to do it, but people did it. It wasn't that, because people are going to respec regardless on how hard it is or how easy it is. The thing is, you're going to show up and you're going to be a DPS. You're going to be a healer. You're going to be a tank. And if you're whatever class you are, it's pretty obvious you are the mighty warrior with the shield and sword if you're a tank, or you're a berserker because you're going in there with two axes, right? Or healers, like a druid. It's obvious because they have completely different styles. Are you a ferocious cat? Are you the nature-using healer? Or are you a chicken? So it wasn't that, and even dual spec, because sometimes you need to put down that second axe, pick up a shield, and take up the mantle of the one who had fallen, right? Or abandoned in most cases. So it's not that you're switching specs or abilities halfway through the fight. It's the fact that you gave every single class every single type of ability. Everybody has a CC. Everybody has a heal. Everybody has a taunt. Well, for the most part, taunt. Everybody has everything. My fucking hunter could heal itself with exhilaration, or I don't remember what ability it was, but they had that. They had the turtle ability to shield themselves as if it was a damage mitigation that a tank would have. They have speed boost, which they already had speed boost, and it makes sense to them. But what I'm getting at is, well, now other abilities that didn't have that before, such as priests, can now speed boost. They also, they already could heal themselves, but now warriors can heal themselves. And I don't mind. I'm a big advocate for Victory Rush giving you a little bit of a healing boost. I'm okay with that. But they could have now other abilities that heal themselves. Like, rogues can heal themselves and CC and speed boost and have defensive spells. Every single class has every single type of ability for the most part, with some exceptions. So that is where the class identity is now gone, because, well, why should I play this class when this class does the exact same abilities? But it looks cooler to me, so I'll just play this one. Or, vice versa. So that's where the class identity is gone. And then you made it more convoluted by adding spec identity. It's like, okay, I get it. You're a fire mage or an ice mage or whatever. But adding in all of that, it just... I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. It doesn't work. That's why they stopped doing it after Legion. That's what... And the artifact weapons, people didn't just sit on one weapon. They went for all of them. Even if they didn't use it primarily, they went for all of them. And the reason why they didn't use it, most people didn't use all of them, is because, one, you had to level up the goddamn fucking weapon. So it's like, why would I spend all this time leveling up this weapon when I'm not primarily going to use it? Some people did, but those are fucking crazy-ass people. It took time. What if you want to be a DPS and a healer, right? You're a druid, and sometimes you switch around. Well, now I have to spend time leveling up both weapons, and why would you do that? Artifact weapons were their own issue. That was separate from class identity, weakened identity. It didn't matter. They have like a laundry list things that were beyond this. So again, for the three things that he's talked about so far, they've given a solution that does not fix the problem. They're not reading it correctly of why there's a problem to begin with. They see that there's a problem and they're trying to fix it, but they're not reading it in the correct way to fix it the correct way.
Energy into building up, and if you wanted to have all of them leveled, they were going to be weaker than if you had specialized in just one, as an example. The idea being, this was always meant to be a role-playing game, and people, in a role-playing game, you're making choices about what you want your character to be good at, what you want your character to be less good at, and that was something that we felt was important. So we were pushing in all of these directions, solving what seemed like design problems that had emerged as the game was evolving. We were reflecting on this and wondering what more we needed to do to recapture something that it felt was slipping away when we compared how players had played the game in the past and what had been the core identity of the game that we as designers had all been trained by our predecessors to maintain. How do we get that back? Well, we couldn't, ultimately. In 2020, though, a pair of things happened that kind of changed a lot of the team's perspective on how we were looking at these problems and where we were. In the modern game, we released our Shadowlands expansion, and in the run-up to that, we had made some serious commitments to players that we really wanted to move back towards meaningful choice and characters being different from one another based on your personal investment. And the community was telling us pretty loudly, we don't want this. We hear why you're saying it, but we just don't want it. At the same time, we had this miraculous opportunity, the wonderful...
I didn't play Shadowlands, so I can't talk deeply on this, but I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the Covenants. So, with the Covenants, just like with, oh my god. Sorry, my sinuses. Just like previous expansions where they tried to do this thing that you would select this, whatever it is, and that's what you would build onto for the expansion. Well, now you had to pick one of 4 Covenants, and they tried selling it as, oh, it's going to be cosmetic, or you're going to be with the vampires, or the undead people, or the fucking fairies, and if it was purely cosmetic, sure, no problem. The problem was, they were actually adding different abilities and powers behind it. Now, again, if it was just, oh, you turn into the fox when you're in a certain area and it gives you a little bit of a speed boost, or maybe you get the thing, like if it was minimal or purely cosmetic, again, no problem. But some of it did actually affect the overall game, to the point where people who wanted to do Revendreth, For their class, they would have to go with the fairies or the angels or whatever it was in order to get a boost to whatever that would actually give them a benefit in raids or PvP. And people from the beta was telling them, get rid of this because I don't want to play this to get a boost. And if I don't play it, people are going to have boosts and I will not have it. So, in that sense, I'm now forced to play it in order to keep up with everybody. They begged since the beginning, and Blizzard did not listen.
Chance to re-release the original classic version. Here we had a chance to literally re-release the 2004 version of the game. And what we found was that, yes, players still love that version of the game. It's a great game and it holds up and it built a strong community. We also found that players playing that version in 2020 played it very differently than they had 15 years prior. Whereas in the past, systems like increasing costs to change your talents around had determined.
I'm going to say it's primarily the retail players who caused this, because, and the reason why I'm saying this, it's not like a retail hate or whatever. There is truth to this, because I played private servers before Classic WoW. I was technically on Chronos, believe it or not, before Nostalrius shut down. And then all the Nostalrius refugees came over to Chronos. That was pretty fun. But I've been playing before Classic WoW. I remember how it was. When I hopped onto Chronos for the first time, I swear to God it was like being back in 2004. If you asked for help, it was literally like people would people like I had multiple people like oh hey, where are the Baron supplies? I'm just level 11. I'm trying to find where the Baron supplies is, which is like the first or second quest in the Barons. And I would have like 6 people whisper me like, "Oh hey, I can show you where it is. Do you need me to help you?" Or, "Oh hey, it's over in this direction." And people would explain it to you as if you've never played World of Warcraft before. I had several people like explain it to me as if I've never even heard of World of Warcraft until today. But then, you would have several people like, "Hey man, I'm actually near that area. Here, I'll invite you to a group. I'll show you where it is. I'll help you kill the enemies nearby." Like, it was fantastic. Like, I was like, oh my God, people are talking to each other. They're not saying, "Look it up, bro. Google it, bro." They're actually, helping you, building social connections. I was like, holy crap. Like, I'm not used to this. I just hop off of Warlords of Draenor and I came here to experience what I felt when I played the game for the first time, and I'm feeling it. This was great. And again, I played several more servers finally after Nostalrius, because that's when the big surge kind of happened and more people started playing it, because that brought news to it, right, with the Nostalrius shutting down. So then I played Elysium, I played Light's Hope, I played Northdale, a few others I don't remember the names, and for the most part, people were generally the same. And then Classic started ramping up, and because most YouTubers who cover World of Warcraft cannot play private servers, at least publicly, because they will get in trouble from Blizzard for it, as well as from their community. Today, the community is not a problem. They're completely fine if their YouTuber they encourage them to play private servers, but they'll still get in trouble with Blizzard, right? Once Classic was announced, and the YouTubers and streamers could now legally play the game, well, of course they have to be the best, right? They have to show that they have the big cojones, and they have to beat everybody else. Therefore, they're going to use their knowledge and what is written about the 2004-2005 version of the game in order to know where everything is, know all the best strategies, know the best gold guides, know the best everything, so that they're top of the game. Well, now that's encouraging their watchers, like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it too. And if I can also be the one with the big cojones and be out there, be the best player on my server, because I can also look at the gold guides. I can also look at, oh, if I get all of these buffs out in the world, I'll have 20% more damage to do in the raid and stuff like that. Now all these people are following along with them, and it created an atmosphere that was not of the original World of Warcraft and was not even a part of the classic version of the game in private servers until it became mainstream in the modern day. And I swear to God, it's the retail players, because when I hopped on Classic WoW, the Blizzard's Classic WoW, within the first 2 days. So I joined a guild that was, day 2 of Classic WoW. So these are all fresh guilds, but it was one that was aiming to be a roleplay guild for Tauren. And I was like, I'm a Tauren, I'll join a roleplay guild, sure. And I saw in the guild chat 1 or 2 people bitching and seething about how there was no transmog. And they're like, I can't roleplay. I swear to God, these people were super dramatic. Like, they literally put down into the guild chat, like, I'm having an anxiety attack. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Anyway, they kept seething and hating about the fact that there's no transmog, because how am I going to make my character look the way I want them to for roleplay purposes if I can't transmog my gear so I match everything? Like, I was literally, like, you had one person who was like, go back to retail, because that was a meme, right? Go play retail. I said that at one point, but I kind of said it not in a hateful way. I said, well, look, if you're really feeling that way, why don't you go play retail where that is available to you? And they said something, I don't remember what they said. So I offered them a solution, right? And I said, okay, look, here, I can give you a middle ground. I can offer you a solution. Why don't you have 2 different armor sets? I role-played in the days before transmog, okay? In actual Wrath Lich King Cataclysm before transmog, or even before Void Storage or whatever it was, like, because when Cataclysm introduced it, you still needed the set, right? In order to transmog, it wasn't like it went to a appearance collection. So it's like, look, why don't you have 2 sets? You have your dungeoning PvE set that you level in or whatever, and then you have your roleplay set. You just go, have a dedicated slot bag in your bank, put it there nice and neat, and then you switch out your gear when you're ready to roleplay, and then you go roleplay. And then when you're done, you want to go leveling, you just go back to your bank, switch it out, and you're good. And they said, I swear to God, they said, I can't do that because I can't handle all this organization. I can't handle all this stuff in my bags. It's going to clutter it up, and that's going to cause me more anxiety. I'm like, oh my motherfucking God, these people are literal children that have so much mental issues. I can't even comprehend how they're playing the game to begin with. Anyway, you know what happened? Even though I offered them a solution, a level-minded solution, they kicked me from the guild because I hurt their feelings. These are the people that are playing retail World of Warcraft and dictating the how the game is progressing. That's why we have fucking furries like Valpyra. That's why we have every single race can be every single class. That's why we have flamboyant void elves. This is why I don't play retail.
Deterred players from doing that and made them say, you know what, I like PvP and I like raiding with my friends. I'm going to make a build that's pretty good at both. Unfortunately, players are a little bit more complicated than that. A couple of examples. So in our Legion expansion, we introduced a big change to how quests work in the world, whereas before you had to go to a town and pick something up from an NPC. In Legion,
part of role-playing.
World quests that were just on your map with tons of rewards. And some of these rewards included a new progression system called Artifact Power that gave you open-ended power progression. Players loved this. The first response we got when Legion came out was that this was like a revolutionary improvement to the gameplay loop in World of Warcraft.
Okay, here's the problem with World Quests. Here's the problem with World Quests. First of all, I like actually going into picking up the quest. I can understand, it's like I just want to go to the area, have it pop up, hit accept, and then it just auto-completes. Fair, fine, whatever. That's not gonna be a big issue for me. The problem is that I you get less out of it than the original dailies. Here it is. So the dailies. What was the purpose of doing dailies, right? It was to gain reputation points toward whatever reputation that they represented, and then through leveling up the reputation, revered, exalted, you would get rewards. Sometimes you'd unlock uh like in TBC, you'd get the keys to actually do the heroic modes of dungeons, or you'd get a mount, the Cenarian hippogriff, right? So there were different. Sometimes you would get like food or recipes for armor, right? Or the armor themselves. Like there were different reasons of why you wanted to do the different reputations. Sometimes you just wanted the tabard to look cool. When you did them, now I'm not saying you need fucking 50 dailies a day to do it. I'm fine with doing 5, right? I'm okay. I'll just do 5. They're all in the same area. I'll do them real quick, wrap them up, turn them in, right? You don't need that many. The thing is, when you did them, you would get, let's say, 250, because that was the average amount you would get, 250 reputation per, and you would turn them in. And I could do that every single day, and I don't even have to just do this reputation. I could do this one, or I could do this one, or I could do both of them in the same day. Completely up to me. And it's primarily in TBC and Mists of Pandaria, as this was not the case in any other expansion. Those same reputations with the dailies, you could get reputation in other ways. You could grind up mobs, as just purely killing mobs would give you reputation, at least up to a certain degree, and then you have to kill mobs in the dungeons of that specific for that specific reputation, and the higher level you'd go, then you would have to move up into heroic mode, right? So you could do that, or you could grind up the armaments, or you could grind up the netherwing eggs, or the I guess the Apexis crystals. I don't remember Agrella that much, but you could turn in items to turn in for additional reputation. Oh, the Shatari Skyguard. That one, you don't even have to touch the dailies, and you can get exalted in like 2-3 days, maybe a day if you really go at it, because you're grinding enemies, which already give you reputation. You get those, I don't remember the events that occur because it's been so long since I've done it, but you have to kill those guys, you have to get the scrolls or something, which unlock the, like, little mini-bosses that are around that are hidden that you need those scrolls to unlock, and then when you defeat all 3 of them, then you can use their, and when you kill them, you get, like, 500 reputation, right? Or 200 reputation. You get a boosted reputation for killing each of those 3 mini-bosses, and then when you get those items that they held, now you can summon the big boss, which gives you 500 reputation. So you could just keep circling around, grinding those items to summon that boss, and just keep powerhousing through it. And because of that, now you can get the reputation at your own pace. You can go slower, just do dailies, turn in here, turn in there, or you can really powerhouse it and be done. The Netherwing. Are you going to do the dailies every day? Maybe you go look for the eggs and you get boosted so you can get it done faster. Hell, when I was playing Stormblade, I was doing the serpents, which are basically the Netherwing, just, Asian dragons. I was just collecting eggs, right? Because they spawn every hour. I knew where they spawn, so every hour, so I'd go and check. Oh, there's one. Oh, I got like 5 of them. Let's go turn them in. I got done with that reputation in 2 days. So, with the world quests, I've explained the older quests, right? With the world quests, what happened was, those served as your dailies. There were no hub of dailies. These were your dailies. And the problem was, each world quest would be for a specific reputation group, and it would be RNG of what you got every day. So now I cannot choose to do this group or this group or this group at whenever I want at my own pace. Now I am at the mercy of RNG for, oh, well, today you're going to have these 3 available, and then every day it cycles out 1. So if you're caught up to date, you're only going to get 1 a day. So now it's like you have to do these. There might be 1 or 2 out in the world for another rep, right? It cycled however many, like half an hour or every 6 hours or whatever it was. So you might get 1 for the wardens, but that's what you want. You want the wardens, but today it's the high mountain, and that's all what the quests are available are for. And you might have another one here for the Valajar. I can't remember. It's been so long since I played Legion. But it's like, I don't want the Valajar. I want the wardens. But there's 2 over here for the Valajar. There's 6 over here for the high mountain, and maybe 1 over here for whatever the fuck was the druid people, right? Like, and then when you go to do it, what did it reward you besides reputation points? Artifact power. You maybe might get something else, but it was artifact power. Cool. Maybe gold. Sometimes you got gold, but it's like, in that level of the game, who the fuck cares about gold? Especially when you get like 200 gold. It's like, I sell a fucking item that I looted off that creature over there and it gave me 200 gold. And it's even worse with the treasure set. Oh my god, I fucking hate Legion. Legion is one of the worst expansions.
Warcraft, they wish it had been there all along, and they couldn't get enough of it. And so we looked at this.
And I'm gonna say this right now. World quests themselves are not the issue if they were an addition. If they were added on as an addition to the traditional dailies, to the turn-ins, to the you could go grind enemies if you wanted to kind of thing, it would be fine. There would be no issue at all. Not an issue. Because I can choose to do the dailies. I can choose to grind. I can choose to turn in. And I can do them in any order because I want to do this reputation first because that's who I like the best, or that's who's got the best item or the best or the mount that I want, right? They wiped out all of that and it was just world quests. So now I am at the mercy of RNG.
And we said, awesome. We solved questing. Let's do more of this. Let's make this our new formula for what we do next.
And that was your issue.
Well, then Battle for Azeroth, our next expansion, came out a couple of years later, and we were dismayed to discover that the first reaction from players when they saw it was, wait, this again? I've just spent the last 2 years doing this stuff. I was expecting something different. Another similar example, we introduced a new dungeon system that we called Mythic Plus with different modifiers and
Mythic Plus is also one of the worst things that they ever created.
affixes.
The thing with Mythic Plus is I understand why they did it. Again, I'm understanding why they are doing it, but it's the wrong solution to the problem. The Mythic Plus was supposed to solve the problem that people were talking about of, hey, remember in Classic WoW when you could go back to level 40 dungeons because they would have items relevant for level 60 rating, such as nature-resistant gear for Naxxramas. Or, you know, you go to level 50 Blackrock Depths and they'll have fire-resistant gear. You know, you go to Winter Spring and get the fire water, even though that's not a dungeon, I'm just kind of using an example. But you would go back to the older zones, go back to the older, and they would still be relevant to the end game. That's what we wanted. We wanted the world to be relevant. But what you did was just as I said with the levels of rating, is you added, well, now you get to do the same exact fucking dungeon every week, multiple times a week. Because now, you have to do it again. and again, and again, and again, but faster! You have to rush it! You have to go as fast as you can or you get fucking nothing. Worst fucking system they added. One of the worst, because there's more, like artifact power.
To vary the experience.
And world quests.
And initially, super well received. With not many changes.
The reason why they start off well received, by the way, is because, for one, at the time, it would be new. So it's like, oh, something new, fresh. But then they see through the cracks and they see the issues, which is why later on when you try doing it again, they don't want it, because now they say, well, no, because it was new at the time, new and shiny, but I'm seeing all the cracks and the flaws in it, which is why we don't want it anymore. That you said it yourself. Why don't they want the world quest anymore? They liked it in the last expansion because of what I basically ranted about 5 minutes ago, or for 5 minutes rather, of why it's an issue. So you introducing the exact same thing, it's like, well, I've already done this. I don't want to do it again because of the issues that are involved. If you had added it with other stuff, if you expanded it instead of just copy pasting, then it would have been way better received.
Other than just adding new dungeons to the pool over time, players a few years later began to tell us, we're tired of this system. It's not working for us anymore. Blizzard needs to overhaul it completely.
And another thing, he's correct. People didn't want it because they want new dungeons. Look at the dungeon count, even the zone count. I'm gonna merge this together. Look at the zone count and the dungeon count of each expansion. You went from TBC to having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 zones with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 or more dungeons to, I'm going to go to Legion. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 zones with roughly the same amount of dungeons. A hell of a lot less. And the reason is, now, the reason why is because in TBC and Wrath of the Lich King, they used the same kits, I guess is the word. They use the same kit for multiple dungeons. And that's fine. As long as they're unique enough from each other that, you know, I speak of Hellfire Ramparts or the Blood Furnace, even though they use the same kit, I know exactly what they are because they feel and, they flow a lot different from each other. Now, it's not completely perfect. I like the Slave Pens, and the Steamworks. I don't remember what it's called. The last one of that group. Those felt almost the same to me. Like, I actually don't remember the Steam one that well, even though I used to run that over and over for those fucking armaments. But a lot of them would feel the same. But, you know what? The perfect example is the Auchindoun dungeons. Even though most of it was the same kit, each of them still had a different theme. You had the Arakoa one, you had the Arukai, you had the Manitombs with the Ethereals, and then you had the Shadow Council Orc one. Each one was completely unique, even though they all took place in Auchindoun. So, there's a way to do it, right? Now, should they reuse kits? Sure, if they can make them unique enough from each other that you understand which one is which. You know, Utgard Pinnacle versus Utgard Keep. They're completely different from each other, so they're fine. Same thing with Old Kingdom and Azul-Nurab. They're completely different from each other, even though they use the same kit. So that is fine, but also add more uniqueness. And this is where less zones come in, because now, let's say they do that, right, in Legion. There's 4 zones, so you're going to have 5 Druid dungeons, you're going to have 4 or 5 Tauren dungeons. It's like, how about two, maybe maybe three in the Tauren area, two, maybe three in like, do that, but then because there's only four zones, you're still not getting that variety. So again, it's the fact that they're purposely lesing the variety and the quantity. Again, quantity doesn't always mean better, but right now it would be, because there's so little of everything that there's less room to make variety.
What we see here is that novelty has inherent value. And if you're trying to come up with a single... All right, moving on. So if perfect design doesn't exist, what does that mean about balance? Well, I'm also going to say that's a challenge.
You should never strive for balance, because balance will never happen in a video game. And whenever you do achieve balance, you achieve homogenization, which is the problem with classes right now. As I've already ranted, so I'm not going to say it again, all the classes have the exact same abilities. They can all heal, they can all do defensive, they can all CC, yada yada. That's homogenization, and that's what was leading to balance, because now they're all the same. You don't want the same, you want them to be unique. So, don't strive for balance. Now, you obviously don't want somebody's one-hit kill ability to just dominate everyone in PvP, right? That, sure, tune that down a little bit. But, like that is in a case that's like, okay, that ability is way too overpowered because it's one-shotting everybody, and no one else has the ability to stop it or compete with it. So sure, let's tune that one down a little bit. Or this one, no one's using this ability because it doesn't do anything, but it's supposed to be part of their core mechanics. It's not like it's like a tool belt flare ability, right? It's not like a I can't think of a proper ability that would fit this, but it's supposed to be part of your core, like arcane shot. And it's not doing that much damage, so no one's using it. They're trying to use something else. Okay, let's just tune it up a little bit. That is where you try to achieve balance. It's never going to be perfect, right? It's never going to be perfect, but you can make it more fair. So instead of the level scale looking like this, it looks more like that, right?
Fun story from 15 years or so ago when I was a class designer working on the Death Knight class. So Death Knights have a couple of different specializations inspired by the Lich King, the iconic
Where's
Warcraft character.
Blood?
One focuses on unholy power, another focuses on frost. And so here we see
Unholy and
an
Blood were
abstraction
always
of the
overpowered.
player data of how much damage these two specializations were dealing in our raid content at the time. Players were very fixated on these numbers, and, if you were a player of the Frost spec...
Well, wait, in Wrath of the Lich King, Frost was the tank spec, so you're not really looking to do damage, you're looking to tank. I've always been an advocate of tanking shouldn't need to do a lot of damage, because that's not their focus. Their focus is staying alive and keeping aggro. That's where they should be focusing, not on focusing on damage. So, Frost, if he's talking about when they first came out, that's Wrath of the Lich King, Frost was the tank spec. Blood was a DPS spec. They switched it in Cataclysm because Blood had a lot more self-preservation abilities because of the Blood mechanics. And then Frost became a DPS spec.
Specialization. You were complaining to Blizzard at the time and saying, we are super players, that if they're on the bottom right now, that's going to change pretty soon. And if they're looking
Someone
at
is always going to be on the bottom, though. That's the
maybe
problem.
They should re-roll.
Because if you go back, hang on. Okay, where am I right now? So 3304. If we go back to the graph he had over here,
who is at the bottom of this list is happier that they're only 4% behind.
Show me the.
At the end of the day, do they all?
So if we look at that graph, like, okay, so the Evoker and the Subtlety Rogue, I mean, they're pretty far dipped compared to the other ones who are pretty much like points apart from each other, right? I mean, Even if you buff up the Evoker to be better than the Subtlety Rogue, now the Subtlety Rogue's going to be at the bottom. Even if they were all exactly the exact same and maybe a point off or whatever, somebody's going to be at the bottom. So, again, shouldn't strive for balance. Like, besides, those two at the bottom that there's a clear little bump away from everyone else is relatively the same.
Praise us for having
It's like,
finally
yeah,
balanced
okay,
the game
Evocation
so well.
does
Turns out we
5
hear
points more
roughly the
damage
same
than the
amount of
Feral
complaints
Druid, but
about balance.
it's
And
not
at the
by
end of the
that
day,
much.
we've seen no indication that the player who is have their time with us. And I think, if you look at the discourse around whether a game is a dead game online, which is everywhere these days, I think at the root of that is players' anxiety that maybe their time is being spent in a place that in the long run will be unwise, that they're
Well, in classic WoW, you could spend 15 minutes to hours a day playing and feel like you get somewhere. Because, for one, leveling was the primary focus of the game, and then there just happened to be stuff at endgame. But, like happened to be stuff when you're level 60, because level 60, well, now you're done. But, well, in terms of the leveling stuff, right? And there just happens to be stuff at the end of the game. But even then, even when you're at level 60, you do a dungeon, and you feel like you've gotten somewhere, right? No matter where you are in vanilla, even TBC, and to a degree Wrath, I would say less so with Wrath, you feel like you get somewhere every day, no matter how long you played. Today, it feels like a waste of time because there's all of these systems that feel like if you don't do it, you're going to be behind. And if you're behind, well, now what's the point? Because you're always going to be behind. That's one of the problems. And then on top of that, it's not as free. When it comes to the content, the content available is... I'm trying to think of the best way for this. It's not that fulfilling. When it comes to like Battle for Azeroth, why would you do war modes? Well, why would you do the islands? Well, to get the currency of the time, the Azerite, right? That's why you would do it, because it would reward Azerite. Whatever the power is at the time, that's what it would reward. And then later on is when they had to add additional rewards to incentivize you, but it was a pain in the ass because you needed so much of it. You would have to run it over and over and over and over and over and over and over, doing the exact same fucking thing. And those two things were really the only things to do in the expansion, and they were shit. It wasn't like it wasn't even that fun. The islands were just bomb rush, right? Bomb rush. And war fronts were baby mode. Yeah, if everyone remembers the video of Asmongold and his entire raid group having to literally try to lose. They all had to make sure everyone was sat still, no one did anything, and then even then it still took a while for the NPCs to actually come and beat their ass. Without stakes, it's literally just following the motions and automatically winning, and that's not fun. So that was content that literally didn't even need to be there. Now, when it came to Legion, I would say was better, right? This is the one thing I praise Legion in. The one thing, and barely, by the way, because I still have an issue with it, but it's over the good meter for me. Legion had tons of varying degree of endgame content that were optional, had various rewards that were all unique and could be done at your own time. You did not have to do that. You were not forced to do it. You did not feel discouraged by not doing it. Like, it didn't... with the side content. I'm not talking about the artifact weapons, right? I'm talking about doing the fishing thing for the legendary fishing rod. You had the Dollarin sewers where you had to collect the eyes, or you could flip it and make it PvP and collect all the chests. Uh, there was that the arena and the snail racing. There were those. This came later on, but there was those bird raptors that you could get the pet. You had to do the dailies with the pet, and then it would turn into a mount, and you can have a mount. Like there was a lot of side content to do that was, again, did not affect your performance in PvE or PvP. It was just there to be there, but offered unique rewards like the rat mount, like the bird raptors, the fish mount, and that was fine. That is what we need more of. Side optional content, not required, not mandatory, offers unique rewards that you could do at your own time, at your own pace. The problem I had with Legion's stuff was that I thought that the majority of them you got done with too quick. I finished not including the bird raptors because those guys came later on, but when Legion first launched, whatever there was available at the time, I finished it all in a month. I got my rat mount, I did the fishing, I did I'm trying to remember what else was available, but I did everything that you could in terms of the optional world content in a month. So now I'm sitting there until the next patch, like, what is there to do? I was casually raiding, so I wasn't hardcoring it, doing dungeons upon dungeons upon dungeons every single night, because I just kind of hopped in when I wanted to, got what I could, and, oh, hey, this guy's looking for a healer, I'll hop in. Hey, we did the raid, cool. And I'm doing it on heroic mode, right? I have ahead of the curve achievements. I was doing it on heroic mode, maybe mythic once in a while, but mostly heroic. And it was stress-free because I didn't have to sign into it like it was a fucking job. So what I'm saying, going back a little bit, because I kind of went on a tangent, going back a little bit, there needs to be more optional world content that's not tied to progression in terms of PvE or PvP that give you unique rewards that you could do at your own pace, but they last a little bit longer. And I'm not talking about hard time gate, because that's what they did in some expansions, and they hard time gated you. That is terrible, because now you cannot go at your own pace. Instead, what they should do is have a leveled structure. The withered training. That was one of the things that I remember now. Now, unfortunately, you could not do that every day. It was like an every 3-day thing when RNG dictates you were able to do it. But, you would do it for the day, and it would level you up or give you the points or whatever, so you can have a better run the next time you go. And the more you went in, the longer you could go in for. And then by a few weeks of doing it, now you can go in and get to the very end and have all the points, right? That was a good system. Now, that doesn't need to be for everything. I think that's fine, reintroduce that, new skin, innovate a little bit on it. What they made with Torghast, again, I didn't play Shadowlands, but from what I saw other people play, there was a good foundation there. It didn't work because of multiple reasons, but it was a good foundation. What they need to do in terms of that kind of content is make it so you have dungeon, like similar to their current delves, where you have dungeons out in the world, and it could be like a fire dungeon, a forest dungeon, an underwater dungeon. It doesn't like a fucking Zelda theme, right? And every time you go into it, it's a different randomized structure, but it needs to feel like a dungeon crawl. And don't have all of the cinematic bullshit, what they're trying to do with the delves. Don't have your little partner with you. None of that. It's just you, and if you want to go with a couple friends, like you were dungeon delving, like in Dungeons and Dragons. And then You can have the trap room, you can have a puzzle room, you can have an enemy room, a boss room, and different kinds of rooms that you would have to try to navigate through and see if you can do it in one life. And if you happen to die, well, then you would have to start over, but you might be able to find, the dungeon coins. This is where the withered thing come in. If you find the dungeon coins, and by the way, no time limit. Spend as much time, think about what you want to do. Don't rush, right? Because that's what they tried. That's what they did with Torghast. If you didn't take your time, I mean, if you took your time, you would have that the terror group come after you and kill you, right? No, none of that. No time limit. Nothing. Take your time. Do it correctly. No rushing. You feel less pressured. You think about what you want to do. If you want to rush, go ahead. Again, your own pace. But you find these specific coins that you could take to somewhere that's like the headquarters of these dungeon delvers, and you could use it to spend on rope, or you could use it to spend on a lantern, or something that could help increase your chances of doing the dungeon. You can get a torch that maybe there are dark rooms that are kind of maze-like and you need a torch to see, or there'll be a optional room that you have a spider web, so you need a knife or a torch to burn away the web or cut the web to go in for a secret room that's got more chests in it, right? So many things that they could do just building upon the foundation of Torghast. You know what they did? Oh, people don't like it, throw it away. Now, I know that they kind of made the delve system. It's a terrible fucking system, and it's not what they should have done. But with other systems, they do the exact same thing. Hey, we introduced this new system. Let's see if people like it. People don't like it for one reason or another. Okay, instead of building upon it, innovating upon it, they throw it out.
They're going to regret. And certainly if it feels like a development team is out of touch and isn't going to look after
the development team is out of touch. That's why your game is failing.
Again, why would they spend their time there? It's really impossible to please both sides. If there are two groups that want literally directly opposing things, we're going to have to disappoint one of them more often than not. But what we can do is act.
Well, see, that's when you try to make new things every expansion, and now you're focusing on one or the other, such as the PvE or the PvP. The thing is, you always choose the PvE. You never. When was the last time PvP got new anything? Right? I think maybe in the last expansion they got something, but they didn't go like 2-3 expansions without anything. PvPers have been shafted since the early days. And this is where a lot of people keep talking about evergreen. Build upon it, because you're trying to make new systems so that the new expansion feels fresh. Well, that's what's leading to a lot of the bloat, a lot of the issues. Yes, you want to make more stuff, but not at the disposal of the old stuff. So, instead, build upon what you have. You have everything there to make a good game. You don't even have to make a new system. Take an old system like Warfront, for an example, and people didn't like that iteration of it. Well, take the foundation, remove the twig that you stuck on there and said that was content, and instead build walls and say, hey, how do you like these walls that we put on this foundation? Hey, these are pretty good. These are not like that twig that was here earlier. It's not that bad. Okay, now instead of leaving it like that or tossing it aside, now build the roof, and then put the furnishings.
Very quickly, when we realize that we have garnished assumptions and social dynamics built upon this system, and we can't totally predict what changing it will do. And we also know this is very much a one.
Okay, here I'm going to say this real quick. I don't mind certain aspects of the game being cross-faction, because in a fantasy world where there are factions, first of all, there's going to be, I'm going to say characters or just people in general that might not align with the factions. You see that currently in Vanilla WoW. You have Tauren, who are not a part of the various Tauren tribes or a part of the Horde. They're instead part of the Blackwater. They're part of the Blood Sale. They're there's orcs that are just, mercenaries that go around. Same thing with gnolls. There's gnolls that are not part of the camps that you go and kill. They'll be mercenaries that fight for these other groups. Like, not. I always had a rule of it's never 100%, right? Now, the primary majority of humans will probably be part of the Alliance. Well, even in the other kingdoms beyond Stormwind, the Gilneans, the Kultirists, maybe they had a falling out with the Alliance, but they eventually come back in, or they're at least friends with the Alliance, right? Either way, they're going to hate the Horde and primarily orcs, because the orcs are who invaded them and nearly wiped them all out, right? So there's still going to be tensions, whether they're directly in the Alliance or not. Same thing with the Horde. The Horde, primarily the orcs, are not going to like humans whether they're in the Alliance or not. So you're still going to have conflict. But, again, you might have that one orc, that one human, that one whatever, that's not, they don't care. It's like people with politics today. Yeah, you have a lot of Democrats. Yeah, you have a lot of Republicans. They might not like each other, but you might have that one or two person that, even if they're, they just don't care. I'm not a political person. I don't care what they do. It doesn't affect me. I just want to go do my own thing, right? So there are people in the lore, in the game currently, as you see them in vanilla, TBC, whatever, that are like that. So having a few, not everybody, a few people not into the factional war is fine. But here's the thing. This is also, I'm gonna say Wrath of the Lich King did this the best. You had the Horde, not just mercenaries or non-factional people. You had the Horde, the Alliance, team up to fight the Lich King. What's the difference between that and other expansions where they teamed up? The difference is they still hated each other. They're still fighting each other at the doorstep of Icecrown Citadel. They're still fighting in the warships, down the hallways. They do not like each other, but they both still have the goal of defeating the Lich King. So, at the best, they will tolerate being in the same hallway, maybe. But they still don't like each other. That is what should be happening. And even then, if you go into like a Dungeons and Dragons style group, maybe your bard doesn't like rogues, right? They hate rogues because they're backstabbing, they're sleazy, but there's a job that you need to do, a dungeon you need to delve into that requires a rogue's subtlety, their lockpicking, their whatever. So you need to partner with them, but you still don't like them. So having a Horde player, an orc, and having an Alliance player, a dwarf or human or whatever, saying, look, there's this dungeon. I don't like you, but we need to partner together to do this, and then we'll go on our own separate ways. Fine. It makes sense from a lore perspective that for certain levels of gameplay, they can partner together and work together, but the problem is that currently in the game, they are dissolving the factions. They're trying to make it so there's no faction identity, because now everybody are friends now. Everybody works together now. No, that is not what they should be. The dissolving of the factions is literally tearing away at the identity of World of Warcraft orcs versus humans. That's what it should be. Keep it the way it was in Wrath of the Lich King. Have it so, yeah, they might partner together to defeat or solve a common issue or foe or whatever, but they still are at odds. They still hate each other. They still have that factional pride that, for the Alliance, for the Horde. But as of right now, there's no war chief. There's no Horde leader. It's literally an amalgamation of whatever the fuck is going on with that faction, which, what the fuck? Why do you always fuck up with the Horde? Why are the Alliance always the goody two-shoes that never have anything bad happen to them? And the Alliance I don't even know what they are now. But that's the problem with what they're doing currently in World of Warcraft. Every race could be every class. Everyone is friends with each other. Even the warlocks are treated like best buds when no, in reality, no one likes the warlocks. They might tolerate them because they're aiding their side, but they don't like warlocks. They don't like rogues. They don't like death knights. Demon hunters up until Legion were kill on sight in most places, and then they just recently said, okay, we'll let you into the city because you're helping us defeat the Legion, but you're still a demon hunter. You seethe with demon energy. You are a demon. We do not like you. That's how it should be because that feels realistic. And they're dissolving all of that.
One-way ratchet. There's no world where we could tell players, okay, you can now play with all of your friends of the opposite faction, and then suddenly decide a few months later.
All right, that's the end of the video. So yeah, I hope you took away something from my rants, but even with this video of him acknowledging that there are issues and what they tried to do to fix the issues, it's like, again, they tried fixing the issue. They saw that there was an issue, but they're seeing it in the wrong way. They're seeing that they're basically knowing that there's an issue, but they're misdiagnosing it and then mistreating it. That's what's happening with World of Warcraft. It's not that people, what was it at the start, that they didn't want to engage in social aspects. It's that you're making the systems that you added are making it so it's discouraging social interactions. Why should people do anything when it's not encouraged, it's not rewarded? So yeah, there's a lot of stuff wrong with this. That's why I went on a hour and a half long rant. I'm probably gonna be trimming down this video. So yeah, I hope you took away something from this video that was somewhat entertaining, but that's gonna be the end of this video. I will see you next time.